So here we are at In Between, another segment. I call this segment Dust to Dust. As it says in the Bible, from dust you came and to dust you shall return. So this segment is talking about catacombs. Now catacombs came into existence in this particular area in the 2nd century BCE. And this is a catacomb here in Jerusalem. There are catacombs along the coast and up north by Haifa. There's a big catacomb complex. This particular catacomb is associated with 3 prophets. You have Haggai, Malachi, and Zechariah. But the actual structure of this catacomb, like I said, started in the 2nd century and doesn't go all the way back into the Bronze Age. I talked about Bronze Age tombs, which were family tombs. Well, here, this is a collective tomb of many, up to 50 different notches for different people. But the tradition has it that the tombs were the prophets and their disciples. I've never heard of any background for disciples being buried with their leaders, except in Qumran. Now there's a big cyst. I talked about cyst graves. There's big cyst graves down in Qumran, and you have a whole field full of people who were part of the community. So anyhow, this was in 1882. It was given to the Russian Orthodox Church, and so they have control of this particular site for many years. In the Middle Ages, it was a very popular place, especially with the Jews and the Christians, and they came here. You have a lot of Greek inscriptions here from Byzantine periods, and so this particular catacomb has gone through many generations of pilgrims coming down here. Now I'm going to just do a little tour through the catacombs and give you kind of a little example here. We have a diagram of all the different areas, and these are all the notches. This particular notch is considered, in this area, considered to be the tombs of Malachi and Haggai. And then off in this area is Zechariah. So those are the 3 prophets that are considered to be buried in this tomb. I'm going to go to the camera now. I'm going to do a walk around. First thing I'm going to do a tilt up. Get a shot of the entrance. This at one time may have been a Bronze Age cistern, which was later turned into a tomb. This is one of the niches where they would have water for washing of hands. Now in the family tombs of the Bronze Age, you would have a large area here where the body was prepared, and then it was taken into the second cave after 1 year when the bones have dried out, and they were put into little niches. So we're going to walk down this area towards the area believed to be where the prophets Haggai and Malachi. This is in the late Iron Age. Let's see if I can get the camera to go in there. Oh, okay. So here we are inside of the tomb. And here we have 2 niches where the bones would be placed after disintegration. And like I said, this is very common for the time of the 1st, 2nd century of this particular type of tomb structure. So now let's see if we can go through here without falling down. Whoops. Okay. So anyhow, now we come down to Zacharias.
It's not for me.
Huh? And as you can see, you've got a series of different niches all along the walls here. And here is an example of a loculi. The loculi was a niche, as you see, carved into the side of the wall, and the body was placed on the loculi. And in other tombs, the body was then, after it decomposed, was put into a bone box. It's called an ossuary. And we'll talk later about ossuaries and larynx. The larynx was also an ancient box made out of clay where they put the bones after it disintegrated all the flesh off and the bones were just left behind. So we'll continue on. Let me continue on through the passages here, give you an idea of all the different niches of the catacombs. And then later on we'll be talking about memorial graves. And in the Kidron Valley you have several memorial graves. These were large structures, usually built by kings or important people. And now we're back into center in the beginning of the catacombs. There is the entrance going back up. And this is a segment on catacombs. So now we're in the Kidron Valley, which is also called the Valley of Jehoshaphat, from the King Jehoshaphat. The city of Jerusalem, the old city of Jerusalem is behind me, and now we're facing towards the east. This particular monument, this is called a monumental grave. A monumental grave was very popular from the 2nd century BCE on until the Byzantine period. And what they would do is they would build a monument above the grave. And this came from the background of a very famous grave over in Bodrum, Turkey, for King Muslus. King Muslus' tomb was an elaborate white marble, huge. I think it was like 4 stories high. And this was one of the 7 wonders of the world. It was so elaborate and so decorative. But the actual tomb is actually beneath the monument. Now this monument in Jewish literature is called a nephesh. Nephesh means soul. And this one is called Zechariah's monument. And through the generations there were graves, Jewish graves at the foot of this particular monument. But there's no grave beneath it. That's what's so interesting. It's just a nephesh. Now some people say it has nothing to do with Zechariah. There were 3 Zechariahs in the Bible. We have the Zechariah during the time of the destruction of Jerusalem, and we read about that in Jeremiah's book. And then we have Zechariah, which came back after the Babylonian captivity. He was with the priest Yeshua, and they were here in Jerusalem after the Babylonian captivity. And then you have Zechariah, who was the father of John the Baptist. So even though we have associations with the name here, there is actually no inscription. Some people believe that next to it you see these other cut tombs, that the nephesh is associated with these other cut tombs that were cut into the mountain. And this was all cut into the tombs during the Hashemonian period. And then off to the other side you see other cut tombs from that time period as well. If you want to see some more Bronze Age tombs, you need to go farther down the valley. Let's see if I can zoom down there. That's pretty. Yeah, let's see if we can get down there. So the village of Sawan was a bunch of Bedouins who settled in the area, and they lived on the east side of the valley, and then above they built their houses. And then after 1948 they moved to the west side, which was actually a Yemenite village, a Jewish Yemenite village, and they continued on building their village down below there. But these tombs you see that are much earlier, go into Iron Age or even into Bronze Age, are built on the side of the cliff across from the city of David. The city of David, let me zoom out, is just around the bend here. So just up the Kidron Valley from Zechariah's monument, we have another monument. And this is called Absalom's Pillar. In the Bible it says that he made a pillar in the Kidron Valley before he passed away. Now the architecture of the Zechariah's tomb, on the top you had a pyramid, and then below that was also a layer of Egyptian style of architecture, and then from that point down you saw the pillars, which was all Greek. Now this is also all Greek. The pointed top there you see was very popular in the 2nd century, and that comes from the Hellenistic period. And this was all cut during the Hasmonean period. And so it's become associated with Absalom, even though there's no inscriptions describing that this is actually his tomb. As you see, grave robbers made a hole into the tomb itself to try to see if there was any gold or silver in there. And off to the side, we're going to move in close, is a series also of tombs with a facade. It's very ornate. Here we go. Here you see another set of tombs. We don't know whose tombs these were back behind this monument, but they must have been of some importance. Now above the tomb there, let's zoom in there, is a little window. Now this was also called a nephesh, and what this window did is it let a certain amount of light and a certain amount of air to flow into the tomb when the tomb was closed. You know, these tombs were closed up and then reopened when another person passed away. So this whole valley is filled with various tombs from various periods, from the Hasmonean period all the way back to a Bronze Age, which would have been tombs from the kings of Israel, or even the Jebusites. The Jebusites were the people who lived here before the Jews came back from Egypt.